They laughed and said he'd never fit. Bullies tried to crush his big dream. With a broken cart and a brave heart, he fought back. From a lonely kid to F1's greatest star, this is the story of Lewis Hamilton, which shocked everyone. Let's dive in. Lewis Hamilton was born on January 7, 1985 in Stevenage, England. From the start, he was a kid who dreamed bigger than anyone around him. His father, Anthony, was from Grenada and worked fixing computers for their living. His mother, Carmen, was British and took care of him after his parents split when he was just 2 years old. Lewis lived with his mom most of the time and saw his dad on weekends. Life was not easy because money was always short, but Anthony told his son to never stop believing. Even when things were simple and tough, Lewis felt deep inside that he was meant for something great. School was a painful place for young Lewis. When he was only 6 years old, bullies mocked him for the color of his skin. They called him ugly and threw things at him and even beat him up. He was the only black kid in his class, and he often felt like he did not belong. Lewis tried to hide his tears and stay strong, but inside he was hurting. His dad told him to ignore the hate and keep his head high, but only Lewis knew how hard it was to go through those days. It was a test of strength that shaped his character forever. Lewis decided he would not just take the bullying. At the age of 5, he joined karate classes to defend himself. He worked so hard that he quickly earned a black belt. Karate gave him toughness on the outside, but inside he still felt lonely and misunderstood. On top of that, Lewis struggled with dyslexia, which made reading and writing difficult. Teachers did not understand at first why he fell behind. His father, however, noticed his spark and supported him. Anthony knew that his son's future was not going to be decided by school bullies or bad grades. Anthony bought Lewis a second-hand kart when he was 6 years old. Every weekend, they went to small tracks to race. Anthony worked 3 jobs at once just to pay for the fuel and spare parts. Other kids showed up with new karts and wealthy parents, while Lewis had to fight with less. But Lewis loved the sound of the engines and the feeling of speed. He learned to push harder than the others because he knew he could not waste chances. The racetrack became his safe place, where he could show who he really was. By the age of 8, Lewis had won his first big race. In 1995, he captured the British Cadet Championship and proved that talent could beat money. On the grid with him were kids like Nico Rosberg, who would one day become his Formula One rival. But even back then, Lewis stood out. He was the only black driver in the paddock, and some fans whispered and stared. He ignored it and focused on racing. Winning races gave him the confidence that he could belong in a world that often tried to push him out. At just 10 years old, Lewis showed incredible bravery. During a karting award show, he walked up to McLaren boss Ron Dennis and told him directly that one day he would drive for his team. Dennis smiled, but also saw something real in the young boy's eyes. 3 years later, that dream started to become reality. McLaren signed Lewis to their young driver program at only 13 years old, which made him the youngest driver they had ever supported. The dream of Formula One was getting closer, and Lewis knew every race from then on would be a test. As a teenager, Lewis dominated karting. In 2000, he won European and world titles and showed speed that was described as storm-like. Rivals respected his pace, but he still faced mean words about his race and background. He learned to block it out and focused only on driving. His father kept pushing him to be perfect. Anthony reminded him that being good was not enough and that he had to be the best to prove he belonged. Every weekend spent racing brought him closer to that goal. At 16, Lewis stepped up into car racing. In 2003, he joined Formula Renault UK and shocked everyone by winning races right away against older and more experienced drivers. In 2005, he moved to the Formula 3 Euro Series, where many future stars were racing. This was the moment the wider motorsport world began to notice him. Each year, he climbed higher, and each year the pressure grew stronger. But Lewis kept delivering with speed and skill that no one could ignore. Lewis smashed the Formula 3 Euro Series in 2005. He won 15 races, which set a new record. Rivals like Sebastian Vettel were racing alongside him, but they could only watch as Lewis dominated.
Lewis Hamilton completes the season with a double win, in fact, at Hockenheim here.
His driving looked effortless and magical to fans who saw him. Some rivals whispered that he was too aggressive, but Lewis did not care. He knew that being bold was the only way forward. He was chasing a bigger dream, and every victory made that dream feel closer. In 2006, Lewis entered GP2, which was the last step before Formula One. He won the championship in his very first season, which was a rare achievement. Big teams started fighting to sign him, but McLaren had already secured his future years earlier. At 22 years old in 2007, he became the first black driver in Formula One history. The whole world now watched closely to see if this young man from Stevenage could really handle the heat of the highest level. Lewis's Formula One debut was stunning. In Australia 2007, his very first race, he finished on the podium. Just a few months later, he won his first race in Canada. He overtook top drivers with courage that shocked the paddock.
Lewis Hamilton wins! Surely the first of many for Lewis Hamilton. The world is at his feet.
Rivals called him cocky and said he was too confident, but pundit Martin Brundle praised him for changing the face of the sport. His speed was undeniable, and the world realized a new star had arrived. The following year, Lewis reached legend status. In 2008, he fought Felipe Massa
He's got grip and Hamilton's lost it!
for the World Championship. It all came down to the last race in Brazil. Lewis needed to finish 5th to win the title, but heavy rain made the race chaotic. With 1 lap to go, he was in 6th place and losing the championship. In the final corners, he passed Timo Glock, who was struggling on slick tires, and secured 5th place. At just 23 years old, he became world champion, the youngest ever at that time. The entire world was shocked by his last lap heroics. Success also brought hate. Some critics said Lewis only won because of a fast car. Others called him arrogant because he spoke his mind. But Lewis stayed quiet and worked harder. He kept piling up race wins and showing he was no one-season wonder. Former driver David Coulthard said Lewis had an unbreakable heart. The mean words from outsiders became fuel for him. Every attack only made him stronger. In 2013, Lewis made a move that stunned the paddock. He left McLaren, the team that raised him, to join Mercedes. At the time, Mercedes was not seen as a top team, and many critics said he was making a huge mistake. People laughed and claimed his career would go downhill, but in Hungary that year, he won his first race with Mercedes and silenced the doubters. By 2014, he claimed his second world title, beating teammate Nico Rosberg in a fierce fight. Fans saw it as a bold and brilliant choice. Lewis had proved his instincts right. The year 2015 was even more dominant. Lewis won 10 races and his 3rd world championship. Even fellow drivers admitted he was the best on the grid. His smooth and fast driving style broke records and impressed fans everywhere. By now, the haters had little to say. He had turned a risky career move into one of the greatest decisions in Formula One history. The Mercedes era of Lewis Hamilton had begun, and the world was watching. In 2016, he faced one of his hardest battles. His rivalry with Nico Rosberg reached boiling point. They crashed into each other in Spain and cost the team valuable points.
And it's Nico Rosberg, and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate.
The title fight went all the way to the last race, and Rosberg won by just 5 points. Lewis was disappointed, but he congratulated Rosberg with respect, showing his class.
A big congratulations to Nico, because he did everything he had to do.
Even in defeat, he carried himself like a champion, but he promised himself and his fans that he was not done fighting yet. From 2017 to 2020, Lewis Hamilton ruled Formula One. He won 4 world titles in a row and matched the record of 7 championships held by Michael Schumacher. In 2019, he was almost unstoppable with 11 race wins that season. He set new records for pole positions and showed that he was racing on another level compared to his rivals. People did not just see him as a driver chasing trophies, but as a man writing history in front of their eyes. By the year 2025, he had reached 103 career wins, which was more than any other driver in history. His record left fans and pundits stunned, and many called him the greatest of all time. The year 2021, however, changed everything for Lewis. That season, he faced Max Verstappen in a fight for the championship that went down as one of the most intense in Formula One history. The two collided at Silverstone in a crash that sent Verstappen into the wall at 51G. Lewis was given a penalty, but he still won the race, which made Red Bull furious. Their team boss Christian Horner called the move dirty. The season then went all the way to the final race in Abu Dhabi. A late safety car call led to one last lap restart, and Max passed Lewis to win the title. It broke Lewis's heart, but after the race, he shook Max's hand and showed respect. That moment showed his true class as a leader in the sport. People sometimes think Lewis has always had it easy, but that is not true. Through his career, he often made headlines for being called rude or reckless. In 2007, he had a big rivalry with teammate Fernando Alonso. Alonso said Lewis was selfish after they clashed inside McLaren. In 2011, he battled Felipe Massa on track with many crashes, and Massa called him reckless. In 2022, he fought with the FIA about their new jewelry ban. He wore rings and earrings as protest to show he would not back down. Former champion Damon Hill said this was not rude at all, but brave, because Lewis was standing up for drivers' freedom. These moments showed his fire as much as his talent. In 2025, Lewis started a new chapter by joining Ferrari. His dream was to win an 8th title with the most famous team in Formula One. He had some bright moments, like winning the sprint race in China, but he also had struggles such as calling himself useless in Hungary after a tough race.
Yeah, useless. Absolutely useless.
At Zandvoort, he crashed out, which was another low point. At that stage of the season, he was only 6th in the standings while teammate Charles Leclerc was ahead of him. Still, Lewis is pushing and refusing to give up because he always believed he could fight back. His move to Ferrari showed that even late in his career, he was hungry for more glory. Lewis was not just a champion on the track, but also off it. He created the Hamilton Commission to help bring more black kids into racing and make motorsport more diverse. His Mission 44 program funded schools and supported education for kids from all backgrounds. In 2020, he spoke out strongly for Black Lives Matter and wore protest shirts at races. He stood against racist words in the sport, including comments made by Nelson Piquet. His heart and his voice inspired people everywhere, not just racing fans. Away from racing, Lewis lives a very different life. He stays in Monaco and is single with no kids. He dated singer Nicole Scherzinger years ago, but since then he has stayed private. He loves fashion and is famous for wearing bold outfits that make headlines. He also makes music and plays sim racing online with friends. In 2025, he helped produce a Formula One movie with Brad Pitt to show fans the thrill of the sport in a new way. His wealth grew even more after joining Ferrari, but Lewis always used his platform to do more than just collect cars or money. He built a life that mixed racing with creativity. The legacy of Lewis Hamilton is already secure. He tied Schumacher with 7 world titles. His 103 wins and nearly 200 podiums are records that no one else has reached. He faced hate and criticism, but he always came back stronger. Experts compare him to Ayrton Senna and Schumacher because he had both speed and spirit. Some called him rude, but in truth, that was just his fight to prove he belonged at the top. His journey from a poor boy in Stevenage to a world hero is a story that lights up Formula One. Millions of fans see him as their hero. Lewis also pushed Formula One to face tough issues. He spoke out against races being held in countries with poor human rights records. He wore rainbow-colored helmets to support the LGBTQ community. He made sure his voice was heard when others stayed quiet. Young drivers like Lando Norris said Lewis was a leader who showed them the way. He made Formula One fairer and more open for the next generation. Kids from around the world could now dream of following in his footsteps because he had opened the door for them. Lewis Hamilton's story is not over yet, but it is already one of the greatest in sport. He still chases the dream of an 8th world championship. At 40 years old in 2025, he continues to fight hard for Ferrari. From his childhood struggles to his record-breaking wins, he has inspired millions of people. Former driver Martin Brundle called him the greatest of all time. This shows the struggle behind his success. I hope you guys enjoyed his inspirational story, and if you did, then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next one.